Hi, I'm Lori.
And I'm Kevin, and this is No Longer Ashamed.
We are survivors of childhood sexual abuse.
And we're here to share with you that if you're a survivor, you don't have to be alone.
Our logo is a salamander, and the reason is a fire salamander can survive a fire, and you have survived a fire.
We want to help you with your journey to healing and hope.
We are all survivors together, and we walk this journey together, and you are not alone.
By telling our stories, we are hoping that you will have the courage to share your stories as well and find your voice.
Because stories are so important, and for so long I know that I wouldn't tell my story, but when I finally shared my story, that's when I got my freedom.
And this is our journey and your journey to healing and hope. So come with us. Last week we talked about chatter, and that was all started because I listened to the episode from Shankar Vedanta on Hidden Brain about Ethan Krosses' book Shift. And when I listened to that episode, I was like, oh, I've got to get this book. And then I saw his book Chatter, which was even more important, I thought, at the time. I think it was just more relevant for me at the time because I was experiencing chatter. But the episode was aired back in May. On May 5th, it was called How to Harness Your Feelings, and it was Ravi Shankar interviewing Ethan Kross. He's a psychologist, and he wrote the book Shift, and it's about how to harness your feelings. If you feel like your feelings are controlling you, how to control them so they're manageable, and one of the keys to do it is to shift. And it's important because, especially for survivors, we talk about emotions a lot, and we talk about how emotions are important, they're information. And one of the myths about emotions, though, is you should never hide from your emotions, or you should just express them or be able to go through them. But there are times when our emotions can control us. We're overwhelmed that the emotions are just taking over. And so it can be important to really learn how to regulate your emotions in a healthy way. Now, I learned how to regulate my emotions, but it wasn't a healthy way when I was doing drugs and doing alcohol, and I was also very skillful at disassociating, which is one of the very common ways that survivors use to regulate their emotions. When they feel their emotions controlling them, they disassociate and just check out. And that happens when you're feeling really strong emotions often. And Charnel feels like, there are times when I'm basically just not there emotionally. I'm checked out, I'm dissociating, and that's not a healthy way to regulate. Emotions are important, but it's also important to make sure that we don't let our emotions control us. And that's what this book Shift is about, is being aware of our emotions and learning how to regulate them in healthy ways.
Have you read the book yet?
Yeah, it's great.
How do we do that? Kevin, tell us, please.
Well, it's actually very similar to how you deal with chatter. And that's why I was so excited about reading about chatter, is these techniques really work well because there are times when emotions are important, but we don't want to get hung up on them. Charnel actually has been dealing with this lately. She had an incident where her emotions got control of her, and it took her probably a couple weeks for it to get to a place where she can regulate them. And we actually just talked about this today, that she felt like she's in a place where she's maintaining them, but how they've been overwhelming her lately. And for her, it was just looking at the situation and realizing that she didn't have control over what was causing her this distress. So she decided that it wasn't worth her emotional stress because basically she couldn't control the situation. So she was just going to let it be and let whatever happened happen and deal with the situation. Part of it was she was just projecting on what was going to happen and letting her emotions about that control her. And she decided, look, whatever is going to happen, I can't control it. I'm just going to let it be, and I'll not stress about it. So,
And that's hard to get to that place. And she and I had a kind of a, let's just call it a complaint session about similar things. Because one of the things for me is sometimes it's really hard when I feel like I know something.
hmm
People that I think should, that's the problem right there. I think they should, because I don't believe in should. I think they should want to know what I think about it because I know things about it. And it's been really interesting to me because the emotions that go with that are things that make me feel like I don't matter, like I'm dumb. And, after her and I were able to kind of hash out some of the things, what I realized was, what does it matter? I know what I know. If the people that I love and care about aren't concerned with what I know, it's not working for them at the time, they may not be ready for it. And so I realized that, like, I always know I have no control. That's an illusion. If you've ever had teenagers, you have zero control. But it was the letting go. And so the chatter that we talked about last time, the chatter goes on in my head. But when I recognize the emotion,
yeah,
and I decided to let go, guess what went away?
the chatter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it, especially regulating it in the moment, is having a way of kind of stepping back or giving yourself perspective, distance, being objective about. And one of the ways is to, by distancing it, looking at it as if you were in the second person. Okay.
Mm.
Kevin is going through this thing that is happening that he doesn't have control over, but because of it, he's stressing out. Or you can look at it as if you're giving advice to someone else, how would you tell them how to deal with the situation? But it's important also to acknowledge the emotion. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like with chatter. You acknowledge what you're going through and give yourself kind of a objective distance from it, and that helps in the moment of emotion. But like with her, it was the lingering emotion that she couldn't stop
Yeah.
from just kind of carrying over and over and
It's
over and over.
it's kind of like it ruminates.
hmm
It reminds me of that wheel on the computer when it's not loading.
Yeah, yeah, and
Like,
it's
make
kind
it
of like
stop.
it's like you're regretting something, or you're thinking about what if,
Mhm.
if something happened and you managed to not have a really terrible thing happen, but you wonder, oh, what if this did happen, and what if it does happen, and then you ruminate on that, and you're just like stuck in, oh, what if this happens next time, and you
Mhm.
can't get out of that. And so it there's other ways though that he talks about, that we have all these skills that we're unaware of. And when he talked about them, I was thinking, man, I use these skills all the time, and I didn't even know I was doing that, but I know they helped because I recognize doing things that get you out of that mindset at the time. One of the things he talks about is using your senses.
Mm.
Going for a walk. That's a big one for me because I do that a lot with my dogs, and
Mhm.
we live in a green belt where we're just surrounded by forest. And going out in nature is a big deal to help you just kind of balance your emotions. If you can spend time out there and realize that, okay, this situation is upsetting me, but I'm going to get through this, and it won't always upset me.
One of the things I ask of my students is to take, well, I like 15 minutes, but I ask them to start with 5 minutes in the morning when they wake up of just quiet. And I do this so I can ask it of my students. Once I ask it, I don't follow up because I feel like they're adults, it's up to them. But I have found, because I've always been committed to a morning devotion, I'm a morning person, so I know that's not for everybody. But when I started setting my timer for 15 minutes of quiet, at first it was so hard because I'm not trying to clear my mind. Honestly, I think men can. I don't think women can clear their mind. I just don't even think it's a possibility. But I think for me, I can be quiet, and that's when my best ideas have come, my best thoughts. And what I struggle with as kind of a type A, kind of like overdoer, is backing off, slowing down, and like thinking that that's important. Like when I realized how important it was, and I asked it of my students, and then because I asked it, I had to continue. Yeah, every day I do it, every single day. But what I realized is that is a place when I can take those emotions, those things that are ruminating and spinning, and I can ask myself those questions that we talked about. Is this even real? Like you mentioned earlier. So in our situation, we have our niece with the head injury. And she's struggling. She's not recovering like we all hoped she would. She's just got some barriers. And my thought is, if I don't do something, maybe she won't make it and it'll be my fault. And the truth is, I just love her so much. But there is that heaviness of, am I doing enough? And also that place of, we can only do what we can do. You know, I've heard people say, oh, I leave it with God as a cop out so they don't have to do something. So how do we take when we feel like we want to and should do something, but knowing full well that all we can do is be there? It's like when someone's grieving, we feel like, oh, I want to take this away from them. I want to make them happy. But the truth is they just need to grieve. And can we just shut up and sit with them? And that's hard. You know, even though I know better, it's hard. And so recognizing the power of quiet time to really take and process those thoughts is so invaluable. And it's been one of the ways that has really helped me and supported me to kind of take a deep breath and go, okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the really good exercises is just giving yourself that distance. And another one is exercise, for me especially.
Me too.
And one of the things he talks about is we have all these tools, and it's good to know as many tools as possible, but not every tool works for everyone at every time. And some tools, some of these methods work sometimes, but sometimes we got to use others. Like exercise is a great one for me. It really helps me regulate my emotions in that it's really hard for me to hang on to negative emotions when I'm out exercising because it feels so good for me. And I get this emotional boost from doing it, from going for a bike ride. I can't be crabby when I'm riding. It just doesn't happen. And so it kind of regulates it and resets my emotions. Another really good one is music for me. Music works really well for me. And of course, certain kinds of music for certain times has worked really well. And there's really no, it's hard to know exactly what's going to work for you, for any person, but they can learn. Like reading this book was great because I learned that I regulate my emotions in all these different ways that I didn't even realize. Another one is being able to write stuff down. And we've talked about that so much.
I had this thought this week about this. I thought I was in a complaining mood, and I thought the people that complain the best, who are the people that complain the best?
I don't know.
Singers, because they just sing their complaint. And we love it. And I was thinking of when I went through my divorce, there was a country song that Lion Cheatin' called That Beaten 2-time and no good, whatever, cheatin' lion heart. And even though that was awful and that was kind of my story, I like that song. That was a way to vent it out. And I just sang it at the top of my lungs. And the thing about me is I'm not a singer. And another where every week they try to get me to sing. They try to trick me, but they're never going to trick me because I don't sing. But I'll sing privately. But the thing is that music, even if it's like that, ugly, complaining, dead beaten, whatever. When I was first in radio and I was doing a morning show, and for radio, that's a really big deal. So all the way to work, I'd listen to Footloose. And it would get me all energized, But then when I would go through hard times, we listen to sadder songs. But what they do is they pull out those emotions. So the emotions can't stay in us because we're singing the song and we're crying or we're laughing or whatever. And I think that one thing when I work with especially moms and I ask them what they love, do you know what they say?
Singing to their kids?
They don't even know what I love anymore. because
Oh.
moms are so sacrificial, most moms. And so what we do is we write down 20 things we love. What are 20 things you love? And of course, in the beginning, my kids, my family, my parents, God, okay, 25 things that you love. And they can't do it. But when they start to do it, they recognize lighting a candle, listening to a song. And I think that sometimes survivors, because we don't think we deserve anything, I know for me, I didn't think I deserved any kind of joy or happiness. So when I got back in touch with what I loved, and for me, it's the beach. So if I can go to the beach and look at a rock, pick up a rock, I am so happy. And I think it's finding those things that we love that bring us joy. And I know this is so crazy, Kevin, because you and I are really good editors. But what I recognize is I really love editing. And I was working with someone that he's very much like you. And I mean slow in the kindest way. He's contemplative. He's like you've said many times, I want to say it in the right way. And it was interesting because I'm training him, but I learned so much from him because I thought, do I have to take out every seriously? What if I take out 75%? But what it made me realize is when I am able to relax a little, I actually absolutely love editing. And it's just a mindless way for me to, I don't know. You love editing.
I love editing.
I know.
And
it's so hard
something
because
about
people
it.
want to do a podcast. They're like, I don't want to edit. And I'm like, why not? But again, finding what we love and then doing more of that. And, for me, it was like, I don't deserve it. It's all back in our head. It's all those chatter. But when we put it out, I can light a candle. I'm not going to go take a Calgon, take me away. That, everyone's like, oh, self-care, a bath. No, baths don't work for me. And so what I would do is I go, self-care isn't worthy. I don't deserve self-care because I don't even like a bath. And it's like, but what do I love? I love editing. I love horses. I love gardening. I love watering plants. Like, what do we love, that we can do that will bring us joy so that we can fill those slots? And if it's singing loud off key to a song, why not?
Yeah. And if it's just watering the plants, that's a great one for me. I think what really struck me about this podcast and also his book was recognizing the way I've been regulating my emotions and how I learned that just from self-care, leaning into the things that helped me to regulate them when I was struggling with emotions. And now I have all these tools, and some of them work sometimes. I mean, there are times when I'm overwhelmed with emotions and I'm not recognizing it, as far as not recognizing what things are working for me. It's like I'm trying these things out without thinking about them, but they're still not working. I've still got that buzzing, that emotional buzzing in my head in the background that isn't letting me rest.
Oh.
And that's kind of what I feel like Charnel's been going through lately, is this emotional thing, and it starts just clouding everything you do. So even the things you're doing to help regulate that, it's kind of clouding them anyway. And that's why, yes, emotions are important, and it's important to share and talk about what we're going through, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. So sometimes it's better to just have ways of avoiding them and learning to maybe take a break from your emotions somehow.
So, like, I love this term, put it in the parking lot. Like, put it in the parking lot until you're ready to deal with it.
Yeah.
Which doesn't, it does, like, when you were saying that, it was like, what do you do when it doesn't go away? Well, everything we do is an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that we can't always immediately get rid of them. But I love what Charnel's counselor said, and we have said so many times on the show, is emotions are information. And what I realized when I was kind of venting to Charnel is what the truth is that I wanted my people to think I knew something, but it was I wanted. And when I was able to let go of what I want and put it in the hands of God. Surrender it. Like God, if God, if I'm not the vessel that will be used, there will be a vessel. And this is hard for me, but once in a while I get very self-important and I think I'm the one. I'm the one that's going to save this situation, or I'm the one. And when I'm able to let go of that, it is such a wonderful thing because it's not my job.
Yeah.
And I think from the traumatic childhood, something came with me that everything was my fault.
Mm.
I don't know if that's something that, we all have different things, but because of not only abuse, but also a mentally ill mom, if we were going on a picnic and it rained, guess whose fault it was?
Yeah.
Mine.
So you felt like you had to fix it all.
Right. And when you think about kids, when their parents get divorced, if they're under the age of 12, they think it's their fault. So whether that was intended or not, I have brought all this with me. So I carry this great weight of, if I don't do, the world will fall apart. And I just edited one of my podcasts, two funny things. One was, she said, I told my story and guess what? Nobody died. Right? It sounds ridiculous, but isn't that powerful?
Yeah. Nothing catastrophic happened. Well, right. And you actually just led into what I was gonna. So there are times when the stuff we're trying to do just doesn't seem to work.
No.
I know for me, and one of the great resources we have is our people,
our support group, our
support, the people we rely on, that we trust. And that's why we say it's so important to have people that we could share with, we could share our story with, and also we could share our emotions with, and we could trust that, and they can help us not only acknowledge and, recognize and but also help us to work through these emotions, things we can do to kind of handle them, and give us that objective. When we can't step back and be objective, they could be the ones giving that objective viewpoint about it. When we can't be the ones thinking, okay, what would I say to someone who is going through this so that they wouldn't be spiraling? Well, they can be giving you that objective viewpoint. So that's another resource that's so important, is having that support group. Find your people, like you say, and be able to tell them when you're spiraling.
Yeah. And that's what I love about our Facebook group is like, maybe we don't hear from someone for a while and come back. They're like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Or they come back and they're like, hey, I've really been struggling. And there is this community where we just connect and we care, and that is such a big deal, because I was listening to a little reel. I can't say her last name. Her name's Christina Hayes something. And she has been doing reels forever. I love her. I think she's hilarious, but she has a son with mental health issues. And so she did this talk because she has a book, and she said she ran into a woman in the parking lot and, our kids have gone to school together. Can you believe it's been so long? Can you believe they're about to graduate? And she said, rather than just going, yeah, like I always do, I said, you know what? My son isn't going to graduate this year. And the friend was like, oh, I'm sorry. And she said, you know what? That's okay. That's okay. This is our reality. This is what we're dealing with. And he will graduate in his time. And I love that, because Kevin, there's so many things. Like, okay, we have childhood sexual abuse. My mom was a multiple personality. I learned to be a chameleon. Like, there are so many things that I don't want to tell people. And not that we go on social media and go, hey, guess what? But also there is that check in me that wants to protect my story. And that's what I do appreciate about you and Shar so much, is I could tell you the worst thing I think I could ever say to anybody about myself, and you would be like, yeah, so what? But our mind is like, what will people think? They will judge us. They will write me off. And I want to be loved. I want to be accepted. And I think that is a thing, like with emotion, is like, yes, tell our story, but that doesn't mean we have to tell it to the whole world and throw it up right away. Tell your story to someone safe, and then tell it again and tell it again, because the truth is our story will help someone, even if it's one person.
Yeah.
And that's why, like in this podcast, you know, we did share your testimony, but you don't talk about your story. I don't really talk about my story, but we talk about how important the story is. And I think that going to the grave with a story can be one of the saddest things.
Yeah. Well, and being able to tell your story is a way of finding your support people. You're finding your people is being able to share and then realizing that they are there for you.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't have to be alone.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we can't handle our emotions and they're just, we try everything and they're still not working, sharing with someone else, I mean, is the way of getting that objective viewpoint, getting a little distance from it, and having someone that is willing to acknowledge them. Because a lot of times, I think with our emotions, for me, I don't want to even acknowledge them because I'm either ashamed of them or embarrassed
Mm-hmm.
or I just don't like them,
Yeah.
you know?
And such a good point is when Charnel and I had a chance to kind of vent with each other. What was interesting was it was like sometimes you can just have a bitching session.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was by being able to say what we were frustrated with. And I'm always so amazed by this because Charnel had pretty much a normal upbringing, but she did have things because she,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a coach for a dad, if you can imagine. Okay. But then I was raised by wolves.
Yeah.
And yet we have some of the same insecurities.
Yeah.
And what I think we both went away with is what we realized is we can make that shift. Like, okay, so let's just call it nobody wants to listen to me. That's not true, but that's kind of, for me, that's my container. Nobody wants to listen to me. That is not true. But in being able to say that in a safe environment, what happened was I was able then to look at it and go, it doesn't matter. Like suddenly it didn't matter because I was able to share it. I got validation. I had a tribe. There were people. I'm not alone. And suddenly it's not a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
And, and yet I had been ruminating. Like I had gone through a whole vacation where I think I said this last week, the thought in my head, even though I was with people I love and I had the best time, but what's my chatter? Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. But then when I was able to connect with Charnel on a level of just somebody that got it, that felt the same way, suddenly we were both, I feel like, able to just let go.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was true for her because she talked about today how she did have basically that breakthrough of finding a way of resolving this emotion that's been hanging over her.
Mm-hmm.
And all she needed was just to be able to look at it with perspective, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what having our people sometimes helps us to do.
And then we can shift.
Yeah. And so he does emphasize that, yes, emotions are information. They're important. They can overwhelm us. It's not good to always avoid our emotions, always shift away from them, always distance from them. Emotions can be very helpful, just like chatter. That voice in our head is really important because it does lead us towards what our goals are, what we care about. It leads us to have creativity. It leads us to have imagination, as long as we don't let it get out of control. And that's the same thing with emotions. They're very important. I mean, fear can be very important as long as we manage it. Anger is also important as long as we manage it and don't let it get out of control. So it's not always helpful to avoid our emotions, especially if we avoid all our emotions all the time. I know for me, I did that really well for a long time. And the problem was wasn't able to experience hardly any emotions. I mean, I just bottled everything up.
And that's what we discover in recovery. It's almost like when people finally come to a place where they're ready to get help, they have two emotions, crazy mad or crazy sad. And that is the thing that I think this book shows us is the way we can find some sort of, everything to me is audio, is the levels. Like when we look at an audio, you can see up and down and the even now a tattoo that you could actually scan and it will. So, but it's that up and down, and that like there's no quick fix, but that we're in this together. When COVID hit, our world shut down, and every Friday I got to go to your house. Otherwise, I was alone. When I went to church, my bubble was me. Everywhere I went was me alone. And so when we have community, we have people that care, that can look at us in eyes of love. Like I've always said, if I know someone loves me, I'm going to be more likely to listen to them. If they don't care about me, they could have the best advice in the universe, and I don't care because you don't care. And so, thinking about, in coaching, we call it reframing, which is similar to shift. We look at things differently. And I met with a colleague the other day, and she handed me a blank deck of 3x5 cards. Said, what's your story? And I was like, so I took one and I said, podcasting. I took the second card and I said, my family. And I took the third card and I said, telling your story. And she goes, oh, that's cool. Rearrange them. So I said, telling your story, my family, podcasting. And then what happened in my mind was taking this is reframing, this is shift. These are 3x5 cards, right? How do they look? They look 3x5. And I turn them sideways, because perspective is what really matters, because we're telling ourselves a story that may not be true. And when we can shift it to truth, we can heal.
Yeah. When we can find, see that truth, we can step back and actually look at what is true and what is real. And sometimes when we're wrapped up in the emotion, and we get hooked by things, Charnel got hooked by what things were happening. We get hooked, even I get hooked sometimes.
Even you?
Doing the podcast sometimes can be a hook. I mean, sometimes it's like, that's when talking about and looking at emotions can actually send you deeper into these emotions, and you're like, but having ways of regulating is what helps us to just manage our emotions and help others manage their emotions. Because I think when we're able to find ways that we can be in control of what's going on, our emotion isn't overwhelming us, then we can also help others step back and kind of look at it and have perspective.
So the shift is, it's a 5x3 card.
Not a 3x5. Look at it from a different angle. Yes.
When we're willing to be open, to listen, and to shift, that is worthiness. We deserve, happiness is something that maybe it's not an everyday thing, but it is something we can decide to be happy. And it's not the toxic positivity. It's not the toxic happiness, but we can't. So this morning I had a shift. I was starting to panic about being self-employed, about being unemployed. And I remembered, I can trust God. I can trust God. I was a single mom for many moons. And when my kids wanted to play a sport, a scholarship showed up. When I needed tires on my car, something showed up. And this morning I went, rather than go to that, oh no, what am I going to do? I went to, God will provide. He is a good God. And when I went on with my day and my coaching, I met with clients, and I had a client that paid me for something that I thought they weren't going to pay me for. Some, of course, editing. I thought, isn't that interesting? When I remembered to shift, instead of saying, oh no, I said, oh yes, God will provide. By the way, this person who is like you, this sweet boy, I say boy, he's like 35. We're trying to edit this podcast, and it's about recovery, and they're talking about rock bottom. And then the host, who is just a lovely man who we're going to interview very soon, his name is Jack. He has a story. He says to the person he's interviewing, are you comfortable about talking about your bottom? And the person says, absolutely. And we got the giggles so bad. And it was so fun. It was so fun to have joy in such a difficult situation, And I just thought, isn't it funny that with editing, like we can make. So what we decided to do was after he had said that, he goes, that sounded really weird. And we left it in.
Oh, you did?
Well, I raised boys. It was like me with my boys. It was so ridiculous. It was like talking about farting,
Yeah.
But again, it's finding those small pockets of joy, because we can ruminate. We can feel the weight of the world all the time, and finding ways to let that go, to shift, to find ways to be happy no matter what, and believe and have faith. And when we like this, I read the Bible in a year, every year. I go through the Bible. So I'm 66. And I probably started when I was 10. So at least 56, if not 60 times I've read the Bible through. But this time it's Nehemiah rebuilding the wall. And you know what the most important job, the highest staff of the priest, the highest level of priests was? Singers, musicians. What does that tell you?
Wow. I didn't know that.
And isn't that what brings us joy? Is music. Even if we are not singers, we can be snappers. We can be
clappers, playing music.
Yeah.
We can be dancers.
Yeah. But we can find those places of joy, and we can let go of those ruminating thoughts that I just feel like the enemy wants to bring us down. One of the things I do is I teach podcasting. And what I see is when people have an amazing story that they really want to put out, they really want to impact the world, they come up against all these things that try to shut them down. And there's one woman with incredible stories, and she put her first one out, and now she's having like all these thoughts. And it's like the enemy, whatever the enemy is, whether you're Christian and it's Satan, whether it's universe, there is a force that wants us to not share our story, that wants us to not heal. And the best revenge we have is by healing, by sharing our story, by becoming the person that we were created to be, no matter what got in our way.
Yeah. And being there for others too.
Yep.
When they're going through that.
If I can do it, so can you. That's community.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good time for us to pray.
So that's it for today.
We are going to have a prayer time if you want to stick with us. If not, we believe in you.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories.
If you like this podcast, please rate and review, because that's how other people can find us. And we really want to spread this message.
Father, I thank you for all your blessings, for your gifts of hope and your gifts of community. We are your children. We are not alone, because you have brought us to yourself to share your love with others. And with that, we have a family. We are not orphans. We are your children, and all those around us are our brothers and sisters that you love as well. You love them, and you want us to be that family. And Lord, I just pray for anyone listening that they would not feel alone, but they would feel your presence and your love in their lives, but also they would feel cherished by others, that they matter and that their story matters, and that people care about them and want to support them and want to encourage them. And Lord, I just pray that someone does need that support and encouragement, that they would reach out, they would find the people, that they would reach out to us, and that they would know that there are people that are there for them. And I thank you that we can be that support for each other, Lord. In your name I pray.
And Father, I'm so grateful that even though we've experienced such trauma, that we're not alone. And what makes me so sad, is when I hear of children that suffer. And we know that's not what you want for us, Lord, but that we can take it, heal, and turn it into something that can help others. And Father, I'm so grateful. Kevin said the word cherish. And I think for me, that is something that when we grow up in a family that doesn't understand that's dysfunctional, how do we feel cherished? How do we find a way to believe that you cherish us? And if we read our Bible, the Bible clearly says that we are not alone, that you love us, that you cherish us. We are worth your time. I know in this economy, and when I say economy, I mean political economy, it's hard for me to pray for anything for myself because I just want you to save this world. But Lord, I know that you care about us individually, and that's such a hard concept for survivors, because for me, I feel like How could anyone care about just me? But God, you make it so clear that you have the capacity to love each and every one of us individually as well as us as a whole. And I pray that somehow, some way that will sink in, and that we will just realize that you are a good, good God, and that we'll tell ourselves that over and over when we want to say, you're a bad God, you let bad things happen, that you are a good God and people are bad and they do bad things, but you are a God of healing, you're a God of restoration, you're a God of shift. And thank you. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. In your son's holy name, amen.
Amen.